to share with you. And it's not this, but it's a clue, and you can probably see it peeking in the background there. So this is the Blue Shark by Matchbox, Leslie Matchbox, and it was produced in the early 70s. 1971 was the trademark date on it. This is a particularly nice example that I got from a gentleman called Raj Mal. So if you're watching, Raj, thank you very much indeed. And I got this for comparison purposes because unfortunately my Blue Sharks I have in my collection are not in good condition as this. So you're all fairly familiar with this, Matchbox collectors. Now, as part of the Superfast 50 celebrations of sorts, Mattel decided to do some special models. Some of them are carryovers from the 65th anniversary last year, but the Blue Shark was going to be seen again, hovering around in the background. Look, let's just cut to it. This is it, okay? This is the Blue Shark 3.0, because some of you may be familiar with the second version that came out in the mid-90s under Tyco's ownership. I think it was using the original casting from this. The driver was a grey plastic. But this is, I have been told by a Bluego at Mattel, this is an entirely new tooling. Everything about it. And it has a metal base, a nice shiny Zamak base. As you can see all the detail there. And if you look at a quick comparison between the two, you'll see that in fact actually, sorry about this, terrible camera work. On the bases, everything looks pretty much as was. Okay, obviously some noticeable details, but yeah, the way that they've cast the trying to get the focusing right as ever, these sort of engineering bits are different. Okay, much heavier than the 1971 version. Anyway, that's the bottom, which is pretty boring, I suppose. Top bit's more interesting. Let's have a look at the engines. The engines, okay, because of the way that toy safety and trying to get things down to a budget. Okay, they've cast the engine as a one-piece job rather than these two bits. This effort back in the early 70s was more to do with the fact that the engine block was a standard piece, and then to get more mileage out of it, they put a polythene moulding underneath with these pipes so they could get extra out of it. So really, it's more to do with the fact of, you know, if you replicated that, then it's a rather strange replication. This is probably, you know, it's not exactly the same, but it's more practical reasons. They've got to try and keep it down to a certain number of parts for cost and safety. The driver is effectively the same in many ways, although our driver in 2019 has got proper harnesses, and the chap from the 1960s, because this is the same racing driver that was used in the Lotus back in the mid-60s, even to the point where if you have a look very carefully you'll see an SO symbol moulding that would have carried a badge. Anyway, too much detail perhaps there. We've got a separate windscreen part. The gauge of the plastic is slightly thicker on the new one. Where it is a giveaway that it's a new casting, new tooling, is these wing mirrors. More defined on the 71 version, less defined on the 2019. That's a bit of detail there. You won't get that on yours because that's a pre-main production marking, which if you watch John Lambert's videos, Slamley, you'll know about those. They appear on the test shots that get sent over from the factory. And this is 0001, and M10 is presumably the production. So, supposedly first off the line. This is obviously to do with the 50th anniversary of the Superfast sub-brand, and as you can see, we've got it on the side there as well. One noticeable difference again is that on this one, it's a nice clean casting, whereas on the one from 1971 you've got this casting line that runs the full length. Yeah. Again, trying to get these things to stand up, doing it all one-handed. See what I mean? Good. Right, these wheels are obviously recreations of the Matchbox Superfast wheels. They're not exactly the same. You don't have a suspension like you do on this one. What is very noticeable is the fact that it does have the weight because of the metal base. So that's where you have got some similarities. Also, if you have a look on the back here, we've got a painted in drag chute casing, and the lights have been painted in. We have got the vents there, but the vents are slightly different on the new one to the old one. It's all to do with, you just notice these things, it's just, you know, what you pick up on. And of course the thing, you've got a Tampo print on here, sorry, on that one, and this is a sticker. So there's not an awful lot more to say about it, apart from the fact I do think that the guys at Mattel have done a very, very nice job. Abe Lugo and his team, and a lot of it is Abe, okay, are to be congratulated on what is a lovely tribute model. And I think that people who are heavily critical of Mattel and perhaps even Matchbox as a brand need to pull back a little bit, because they didn't need to do this. And I think it's a very nice job. Different sort of blue as well. But yeah. The only criticism, of course, that could be labelled against them for people who are not in the United States is how do you get hold of these models? And I think it's a very sore point amongst British collectors, because of course Matchbox is originally from the United Kingdom, and it was Lesney that came up with the Superfast name, brand, invention, whatever you want to call it. But, you know, what can you do? There's not an awful lot you can do apart from obviously try and get hold of the models either from friends in the States or from people like John Irvin over at Modelmatic, which I'm sure a lot of you will get them from there. So big thanks to Abe Lugo at Mattel for sending this model across, give us an opportunity to have a look at it early on, and also to my friend Raj Mal in Birmingham for sending me this model here. And that's it. Goodbye.
Wheels. Now this is where we're going to start on these. Your early Whiz wheels, and these are specifically Whiz wheels, had very, very skinny wheels. And a lot of the reason for that was because these cars came from the original days of the Husky. If you notice, metal base, not a lot of difference there. It was originally going to be a rocket at one point, hence the giant moulded in ridge down the centre there. That would have been where you put your frame. That would have probably been a D frame. But I don't think it would have suited the car awfully well. Another feature of this, of course, is that scary purpley metallic paint job. Much nicer in the Husky mode. Much, much nicer. But yeah, this has got a missing part, as you can probably tell. It probably would have had a bit of luggage snapped in there. Still yet to find one in mint condition, but you never know. Another really cool piece is this one. Again, produced with these skinny little whiz wheels. This would have been a Husky as well, towards the end of the Husky period. Probably produced in scary colours as well, but this one in a rather lovely orange. Pretty much perfect for the time period, and probably one of my favouriteest whiz wheels. Opening doors as well, as you can see on there. Corgi whiz wheels. Completely lost that scary looking base. There we go. There's the rocket version. Were they produced around about the same time? Probably. In a way, it was probably a good thing that the rocket didn't take off, because this whiz wheel is delectable. Another really nice piece that I found was this one. This doesn't look like it was ever going to be a rocket, and is produced as a Corgi Junior whiz wheel. Another nice early piece from around about 1970-71. There we go. So it's looking like the Corgi Junior branding was something from the 70s, and possibly from the early 70s, given the nature of those wheels. And the final one with those little skinny whiz wheels is this one, the Studebaker. Possibly brought back. I can't see that as being a rocket in the same way as I can't see that being a rocket either. These are cars of the late 60s, mid to late 60s. And this one is missing its piece on the roof, which fortunately we know was a camera guy. Fantastic. Yeah, this piece didn't really last much into the 70s and was soon phased out. Doesn't even have the opening rear end that its old Husky sibling used to have. I guess there would have been a guy on a stretcher in there as well. Well, here they are. They were rockets. They are now whiz wheels, and there's some really nice pieces in amongst this lot, and I'm going to just go and show you some change ups as well that occurred during the rocket transition. Here's the old McDonald's wagon, and here's the original. You notice the way that the castings changed around the front end there. That front end on this car is really heavy. It's a solid lump of die cast, as opposed to this piece, which looks like it's made of plastic actually. Die cast plastic, basically the same vehicle. It's got the plastic bit up the back. If you notice on the base of the old McDonald's, it does have space there still to be a rocket. They didn't bother filling in that channel at all. I don't think this made it into the later ranges, so it probably was phased out around about 1972. Here's another interesting piece. This would have been a rocket, or would have been the foundation for a rocket, in a couple of variations there. Again, something for the 1970s. Got a strange blob on the back of that one, not sure what that is. It's got two engines, as if. And all that power, what are you going to do with that? That is a serious dragster, that one. And that's called a VW Hot Rod. Well, it had to be, didn't it, really? Another nice piece is this Eliminator. Again, we saw that in the rocket range, and they completely gave it a new base on that one. So not always, it's not always obvious what an old rocket would have been. I mean, in this case here, this was definitely a rocket. You can see the T-shape there has been remanufactured to give us a relatively nice little escort there. Mexico. And that, yes, that really did exist, that back end there. Mark's doing, or trying to do, a rebuild of this piece, which is interesting. Here's another one. Definitely a rocket. I've got the rocket to prove it. There she is. The old Marcos. Interesting. Not a lot of difference there on the stance, actually, for those two. Here's a wild one. This is Wonder Woman, and she was a rocket. There she is as a rocket on the base. That big old block there, cast in. But you can see here, this is what, 1979 it says on there. So that was obviously kicking around for ages. So there are 1968 right through to 79. 10 years of cast in production. Amazing. She is scary though. It's like Frankenwoman. Here's a nice, I like this one. This is the Morgan. This one's in very bad condition actually, but I did find one in slightly better condition. Prop roll whiz wheels, very nice. The Morgan Plus, a couple of variations there. Of course, there's the just to show we've seen it before, but just in case you didn't see it, there we go. It would have had a D base in there. See, if you notice, it actually tells you which base to put in, D. So you could have taken all your bases off, had them lying around in your toy box, and still known which one to put in. Love this one. This is a special BVRT Vitamin, the Vitamini 1300 Mini Cooper S. And yes, this one existed as well. A very special piece. Slightly beefed up engine in there and cut down low. Very nice. This one and the Escort actually both fetch quite a lot of money on the secondary mint on card market. So yeah, you're looking at probably about 60 odd quid for a decent one of those, with the rocket base, of course. Very nice little piece, that one. You forget you got it. It's got a sticker, see? It would have had a sticker on the other side. Lovely. Very lovely. Here's a nice one. This is the Volvo P1800. This, again, would have been a rocket. I have seen it as a rocket. I didn't pick it up for some reason. I think it was because it was missing its wheels or something. But glad to have this particular whiz wheel. It's actually got a hook on the back of this one. Very useful. They always seem to put hooks on the, in particularly Corgi, always seem to put hooks on the back of like ridiculously swooped up cars. Here's a Pininfarina Alfa Romeo. Again, we've seen that as a rocket. Ka-ching. Not a lot of difference there. This one looks like it was knocking around for quite a while before they took it away. Very futuristic looking. Of course, here's one of those as a whiz wheel, super stock. Corgi Junior. And Mel favourite, the big old Auto Rescue. And this time the wheels are pinned in place.
From someone on Instagram, some loose cars. He had a selection of stuff, and it was going for, I think they were going for like 30p each. So they've just arrived today. I thought I'd show you what they are. This is the Matchbox van, I think it's called Fantastic, yeah, which is loosely based on a Ford Boss Mustang. Certainly the front end, that bit there basically, and the rest of it's done like a sort of custom van from the 70s, very orange, carrying the number 34, which is its number, and this model originally would have had a big chrome engine stuck on the front of it, and they got rid of that. Didn't realise the windscreen was smashed, but never mind. Could be useful for project work, for customising. Next one is a TR7 by Corgi, which has certainly seen better days. Someone's had a go at it with a silver paint. Managed to avoid the windows, which is quite a feat. Well done. Yes, this is obviously for custom work. I remember doing one of these about 20 odd years ago. In fact, probably 25 years ago. One of the first customs I think I did. So yes, it's seen better days. God knows what colour it was before. No idea. No, red perhaps. No idea. Right, that's that one, and then we got the what was it called? Turbo Fury, isn't it? By Matchbox Rollermatics. This one, again, they've all seen better days, really. Didn't realise it was going to have smashed vanes on the back, but never mind. Again, one for potential for custom work. And then we'll move to this one. Now, this is the one that caught my eye because this is the Jaffa Mobile that Matchbox did for McVitie's back in about 1976, I think it was. Very, very popular on-pack offer. Used to send off the pack tops from McVitie's Jaffa Cakes. And they sent you one of these. And obviously not one that's got a smashed screen. It's the, what's it called, Super Cooper. 1972. It was oversubscribed, this offer, and they ended up offering 2 other models, one of which, strangely enough, we believe was this one, although some say that they are just simply code 3s, that people had some labels. Talking of which, that would have had a label on the side there. There it is. Rather sort of pointless sticker, but never mind. The one that they also did was the tyre fryer, I believe. So it was this one, they fully oversubscribed and they went to the tyre fryer. The label is not in very good shape. I didn't realise it was that bad. But anyway, it's a genuine Jaffa Mobile. Quite what I'm going to do, I don't know. I have actually made one of these and done my own label. Not faked, you know, it was done on a computer. But there you go, that's that one. And then we'll move to this one, which is the Matchbox Ferrari 308 GTB. This one has intrigued me. I remember having this one. It was probably one of the last Matchbox models I had as a child, before I grew up temporarily. And it was, I think, actually made in England, because I think it came in a box. So it was one of the last proper Matchbox. I would have had it in about 1980, 81. Probably 81, because I think that's when it came out. Or could have been 82. It's richly at the end of the Lesney era. And so I wish I had kept it. And it had a Ferrari prancing horse on the front. And it would have had a black interior, black light. This is a racing version. What I want to see is at some point what happens when you black in all the window lines and if it improves it, because I always thought it was a not particularly well proportioned model. It's too long. Don't know, this is something that's not quite right. But, or I might just leave this one, I don't know. Who knows? And we'll move to this one. This is a curio. The photograph that he'd supplied to choose models from was overhead, and I didn't see what this was. I was curious. I knew it was some kind of 70s supercar thing concept, and indeed it is, because it is a Bath or a Bart 2000 by, I think this is possibly a rather late stage Xylnex. I'll need to check. And it's a plastic base, and that plastic base must come through to that bit there, which is some kind of vent. Weird. And the paint job is horrific. That's not a repaint, that's just been badly applied. But they are almost certainly those Xylnex Motormex wheels, or whoever took over that casting. And then we finish with this Skybusters LTV Vought, whatever it is you want to call it, Corsair 2, which again, because it's an overhead shot, I didn't realise how knackered the tail planes were. And strange, ironic really. I might actually have the tail planes from another model to put on there, but is it really worth it? Probably not. So out of this lot, and they got sent in a jiffy packet because the guy didn't have a box, which surprised me, because it's always a good idea if you're sending things in the post on a regular basis to hang on to boxes. An interesting mixture of stuff, eclectic I think I'd say, and very much from my childhood period. So in future months or possibly years, some of these will be renovated. So keep an eye on my Instagram page. Right, okay, so this is the Jaffa Mobile that I received in the post. which has seen better days, and this is the one that I converted from a metallic blue standard issue one a few years ago and made my own label. As you can see, it looks nothing like the Jaffa Mobile label, and it's a whole lot bigger. Probably could make one, but as you can see, the coloured glass is not the same, but there again, that's because the interior is not the same, and that's because I sprayed the interior or painted the interior pink. Give that proper 70s feel. So looking at the two of these together, clearly obviously the other one's got smashed glass, but mine is actually better in a number of ways. Although not the real deal and completely fakey, it is interesting to compare the two. So there you go. Have you ever had a Jaffa Mobile? If so, stick it up on my stick it up over to K5. Do a little bit of video. Send it to him on WhatsApp. Could be interesting. I wonder how many of these Jaffa Mobiles in either this guise or the Tyre Fryer are out there. And they will only be in the United Kingdom. Any of them that managed to get overseas, that is a bit strange. So they are all in the United Kingdom, and I reckon there's probably quite a few that are still in mint condition. And have a look on eBay. But I don't think they're super rare. It's just they don't seem to come up. Some of them are probably sat in attics or on shelves in kitchens covered in cooking fat. Who knows? Send your answers on a stamped addressed envelope, as they used to say. And that's me waffling myself into a complete frenzy. And ta-ta for now.
Well, you know, on the K5 channel we do like to show you some interesting off-brand stuff. And first of all, we're going to look at this piece here. It's made in Spain by Geese Val. Now, we don't get a lot of these over in the UK, and the only time you're going to see them is if someone's bought something abroad at some point in their life, and I'm guessing that this was probably bought around about 1989 or thereabouts, given that it's a Seat Ibiza, a very popular car back in the day. Yeah, well, there's not a lot you can say about it, really. This is the Geese Val range. I've seen a few really beautiful models to a kind of a cheaper car range, something akin to the Maystow, the cheaper end of Maystow. But what's nice about Geese Val is 9 times out of 10 they give us a great car with great European heritage. And of course the Seat Ibiza was one of the mainstays of I suppose Spanish transport for the late 80s, early 90s. And of course we saw quite a few of these Seat Ibizas over in the UK. So, there you go. I don't see many Seats around these days. Not as much as you used to. Perhaps they're still fairly common over in the continent. It's been a while since I've been over to the continent. I was going to say incontinent, but that's a whole different subject.
Up in a charity shop today. Near me, it is a Corgi Rolls Royce from the Corgi Classic series from the mid to late 1960s, and you don't see these very often, and if you do, they're usually going for quite big money. And I paid a princely £8. Obviously, there is a bit of damage, and in the display cabinet there was also the Bentley, the Renault, and something else I can't remember, but they wanted £50 for the whole lot, and I said I only want that one, so I paid £8. And as you can see, the front wheel and the back wheel are different, as opposed to what Matchbox used to do, which was they're all the same. So the Corgi stuff was very much a cut above. The body is plastic, interesting enough, for the 60s, but it would have been a very heavy piece otherwise. So yeah, that's plastic, metal. Nice detailing on the bottom, and that's what made these.
It is indeed the Ford J, and look at that, it's even got a little driver in there. Interesting accoutrements there. I'm guessing he's supposed to have some kind of helmet, but it's just like a green blob on it, on a yellow and pink bit of plastic basically in there that simulates the driver, who actually appears to be moulded in to the seating arrangements. It's got a separate steering wheel as well, so there's quite a lot of detail going on in there really for a little tiny car. And the detail doesn't end there. Oh no, I won't tell you who makes this car straight away, because the only other version of this car I've seen is probably by the Hot Wheels redlining period. Sort of, I think it was the second. I don't know actually. It might be one of the Sweet 16, but I don't think it is. I think it's this came out in the next batch of new cars from Hot Wheels back in the day. And this car actually shares quite a few, let me say, things. It shares a few things with Hot Wheels. So we'll look around the car, and it's a very good representation of a Ford J. Of course, the Ford J was, I think the Ford J was there to replace the wonderful GT40. I did a little scale thing for this car, and this is actually slightly smaller than 1/64. But it's very close. It's probably around about 1/65 scale. It doesn't have any opening features whatsoever. It has some very odd looking wheels, I must say. Whether they were tampoed up to look a bit more sporticious at the time, I have no idea. But they are kind of white lined, so there's a little bit of printing on there. I'm going to flip it over. So there you go. That's what a Ford J looks like from the top, and that is what it looks like from underneath. And as you can see, it says Ford J, made in Hong Kong, as were quite a few cars back in the day. Hong Kong, of course, being part of China now. And it's made by Marx. And the Marx Toy Company, they're quite an old toy company, and I think they're American, actually. I don't know an awful lot about the Marx. I think this is the second ever Marx vehicle I've ever got. And this one is quite unusual because it has what was something that Hot Wheels had done, and that is have these two-piece wheels. You can see a little nylon bearing in there. It's not, they're not the only people to produce cars with nylon bearings, but this one does actually have a single straight-through axle as opposed to the very complicated redline suspension. Metal base. It's got the old style sort of late 60s riveting going on. And I'm guessing that this car is probably from around about 1969. So all in all, pretty much a must get, especially for people who are very interested in the history of the GT40 and kind of need kind of GT40 related products in their collection. A bit like me, really.
Is a Corgi Adams Probe 16, and the reason why I've got this is because I recently went to the Stanley Kubrick exhibition at the Design Museum in London, where they actually had a real version of this car in bright orange. I had actually ordered it off eBay a few days before that, but it turned up yesterday when I came back from work. So here's a little video about it. As you can see, it's a little bit chipped, but not too much of a problem because I'm probably going to respray it anyway. Just don't know whether to do it the same colour as the car in the film, Clockwork Orange, which is a light metallic blue, or to do it orange like the one they had in the Design Museum. It's a very nicely done model, lovely interior, very accurate, including that really strange steering wheel, and obviously the wheels are not particularly accurate, but the typical whiz wheels from that time. You see on the bottom, typical sort of presentation from Corgi. What's always nice about these models from this time period is that they actually try to do the script, the name, in the same fashion as the manufacturer actually did it. So you see that with things like the Ford Cortina, etc. We've also got a Mazak, which obviously stands for magnesium zinc alloy. K for compound, spelt wrong, I don't know. Anyway, wonderful model, sliding top on it. Many of you are familiar with this, I'm sure. It was a real car. There was only about 3 or 4 ever made by a couple of brothers called Adams in Bradford upon Avon in the West Country of the United Kingdom. And as I said, it appeared in clockwork orange for a very short period of time from that angle only, with all the droogs inside it, so you never actually saw anything more than that. And they managed to get all 4 of the droogs actually in there, which you can see is pretty tight. So there you go, that's a little video. Nice little ruby red lamps at the back. Typical Corgi presentation from this time period, when they really were on the ball. This is just a shame that the models are spoilt by the horrible speed wheels, which they just look like row styles, and they work very well on the Cortina, but not very much else. Anyway, there you go. Thought you might enjoy that.
Yes, it's a Porsche. It's the old Porsche 393, whatever it is. Hang on, it says on the base a 356A. There you go. There's a Maystow, lovely old Maystow. You kind of pick up these kind of Maystows because they're a little bit different, especially when they do cars like this with a little bit of heritage to them. Obviously the Hot Wheels version, the latest version of that, is really, really nice. And that's the Outlaw car. But nice to know out there somewhere you can buy a Maystow version if you really want to. I suppose this one's ripe for doing up. Of course, this is typical Maystow. I'm showing it with this batch of cars because of the Seat Ibiza from earlier, just to show you that you know, economy vehicles are rather okay. This was sent to me by Mark. Thank you very much, Mark. Sent me a whole bunch of cars, and like I say, I'm going to be showing you them as appropriate. But yeah, Maystow, not exactly an off-brand, but fairly off-brand, and this again made in China, so kind of the lower end of the China market. Brilliant. Not a lot you can say about it really. It's red and silver. It's quite nice in a way. It's sort of ripe for kind of some kind of doing up session. Very, very thick paint. But anyway, there you go.
Here we are at Brands Hatch, and we get a chance to see the brand new Team Matchbox Surtees racing car, and the driver inside is Mike Box, long-term driver for Matchbox. A wonderful V12 engine. Oh no, correction, it's in fact, no, that is not. It's a V8 engine, which is unusual in itself for this category of car. It has a wonderful new device on the front for cooling the engine with a big radiator. A rather interesting paint job, it has to be said, but no sponsors as yet. It seems that Matchbox will be carrying the whole weight of this operation. An interesting gearbox at the rear, and some very, very large tires indeed. Let's keep this beast on the road. I'd imagine they'll be rather sticky in the heat. So, how will this new car do for Matchbox? And will it keep the Surtees name alive? Stay tuned and watch this channel.
It's a flashback moment. Oh yes. Now the first time we saw this car was when Le Mans Fashion cracked it open. Ooh, a couple of years ago now. This Johnny Lightning I got from Monsieur Diecast in an RAOK about a year ago, and I've been dying to open it, and I've taken it with me on loads of little trips and missions. I've been to Florida and back with it, and as a consequence the packaging has got rather bashed, and yes, and the back's been a bit ripped, and it's all going on. So basically it's time to free the piece. Mopar or no car. So that's what the back of the pack looks like. It's all written in French, of course, because Monsieur Diecast, he comes from Canada, and they speak French and English there. I'm guessing this is maybe a Canadian special, because there was a lot of French on this one. Awesome. There was also those cars in the series. This is towards the end of the the last series of Johnny Lightning before they joined up with R2. I think they were with, I'm not sure who they were with. It probably says there somewhere who they were with. Did you know the average Johnny Lightning casting weighs 55 grams? That's pretty heavy. So there we go. Playing Mantis, made in China. It's all going on. Newsflash, whatever that is. Black with flames. So yeah, RC2. The moment where you have to pause, as you can read all that wonderful information. And there's the front we've seen already. 1955 Chrysler 300, Mopar or no car. What? Now that is beautiful. Now, the first thing that jumps into your mind when you see this car is how much like a Volvo it looks like. I mean, look at that. Now, did Volvo copy this, or did this copy the Volvo? It's one of those tricky moments. My guess is that around in the 50s there was a school of design concepts and etc. etc. Volvo would have been involved in that somewhere down the line. They would have taken drawings and used the best designs of the time to construct their cars, because that's just what they did. And Chrysler also were innovators and would have picked up on the latest fashion. But it's very unique design. The actual Johnny Lightning piece itself was first around in 2000. I've seen this in the 2002 and 1999, 2000 releases of the James Bond vehicle, which is all in black. Very, very nice, of course. But for desirability, this has really got to be the one. And of course, when Lamar Fashion opened this car up, way back, he started off and fluttered many a heart, believe me, with this piece. And I'm really looking forward to taking this one out on a very special photograph shoot, and we'll hopefully see the results of that after this little examination. Fantastic. There's a little map of Mexico on the top here, look. There you go. So it's literally the race is all around Mexico, from the dangerous north to the volcanic south. I suppose it's volcanic. Through Mexico City, and that must have been an interesting section. Kirk Escalante and Rick Adams and the Thraxton Drew Chrysler. And I suppose, if I remember rightly, this was the car that they used to road test the vehicle to prove its reliability and roadworthiness. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Monsieur Diecast. I feel sorry for you as well, mate, because you told me recently that you can't seem to find another one. I hope you do. I really do, because it is beautiful. I'm sorry in some ways that you sent me this one, because there's no way I could ever thank you enough. It's beautiful. So another quick look at that engine. Wow, look at that little gold air cleaner. Fantastic.
Back again, hey, let's YouTube, Lamar Fashion, back again, hey. Fantastic. YouTube, fantastic. YouTube, that is a beautiful piece. Of course it's hard, come on. Of course it's hard, come on. This Urban Outlaw livery definitely works on Porsches. Very, very cool. Look at that blue interior. It's got a roll cage.